All right. Well, welcome. I will give everyone just a minute to hop on, but I will go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Caitlin. I am a registered dietitian. I'm also a culinary nutritionist and trained chef. And I am going to be presenting several nutrition topics to you over the next few weeks. So today we're going to start at the basics, and we are going to be talking about food and water. We are at the mercy of the internet, so if for some reason I get disconnected, give me a minute to hop back on. If you get disconnected, don't worry, this is being recorded. For this to work well, please stay on mute, and I will ask you questions, and you can ask me questions, and we will communicate through the chat. I have my chat pulled up, and I will be reading that. So please make sure that you're muted. All right, so I already asked, I know that you're kind of sprinkled throughout the United States. I'm curious, type into the chat where you guys are located. I myself am located in Waco, Texas. So type into the chat. I'm always curious. Virginia, awesome. Virginia. I was born and raised in Virginia. I was born and raised in Norfolk, Virginia. All right. I'm trying. 757, yeah. All right. Okay. So, nutrition has been made very, very complicated in our society. We're confused whether we should be eating low carb or low fat or high protein. And a great example of this is when I was a brand new registered dietitian. I had my first job in a hospital, and I got a consult from a doctor to see this patient. And it was this woman, and I went and I reviewed her labs, and I went into her room to give her a diet education because I noticed that her cholesterol level was like super, super high, her triglycerides specifically. And I go in there and I chat with her, and I'm like, wow, your cholesterol and triglyceride levels have really jumped up since your last doctor's visit about 2 years ago. Are you doing anything differently? And she said, well, yeah, I started a really low carb diet. And I'm eating a lot of meats and cheeses and fats. And she was like, and it's been great because I've been losing weight. And that's the problem. We are confused on what is good and what we should be doing. So although she was losing weight, she was having really, really high cholesterol and triglycerides because her diet was so high in saturated fats. So I love this presentation. I love starting this series with this presentation because there's a lot of information that's not correct out there or that might not be appropriate for everyone, and we are going to get down to it. All right, so nutrition or wellness is multi-part. A lot of people just think, okay, I'm going to, let's say your goal is to lose weight. You say, I'm going to lose weight, all right? And you start eating great and you're not losing weight, or you reach a plateau, which happens. And a lot of times it's because we don't realize that nutrition or wellness is multifaceted. So we need to make sure that we understand, for us to be as healthy as can be, it's not just nutrition. Your sleep has to be good, solid sleep. You need to make sure that you're not super, super stressed. There are hormones that rise when we're very stressed out, and it puts negative effects on our bodies. And then, of course, we need to be exercising because it's good for our heart, but it's also good for weight management, weight loss, and it's really, really important for our immune function as well. So for us to have a nice, healthy body and for things to work as they should, all of these things need to be a priority, not just nutrition. All right, so Today, we're going to look a little bit deeper at nutrition, but I like to bring up that point because a lot of people struggle getting all of these things working correctly and together. All right, so here's my question for you. My first, well, I guess my second question for you guys to type into the chat. What is your dream car? All right. For this scenario to work, I want you to think of dream car. Someone knocks on your door and they hand you keys to a car. What car is it going to be? Let's see. A Lambo. Yeah, what color? No, I'm just kidding. A 78 Monte Carlo, 7 Series BMW, an Audi, Mustang, Porsche. All right, let's go with Porsche. All right, Maserati. Oh, yeah. All right, so we're going to go with Porsche. Everyone knows what they are. I'm not a car person, so some of these I don't know. Like DeLorean. Oh, I've heard of it, but I don't know. I don't know what it is. All right, so Porsche. All right. Knock, knock, knock. Someone comes to your door and they hand you the keys and they say, here's your car. It is fully paid for. The only rule is you have to take care of it because you're only going to get this car. All right. So you're like, this is awesome, man. I got a brand new Porsche. Things are great. You're driving along and you realize that you're out of gas. And you're like, okay, let me go to the gas station. Now in your Porsche, you don't pull up and grab the cheapest gas, right? You don't grab what's cheapest just because it's a good deal, because your Porsche probably isn't going to work like it should. Now, I'm not a car person. I don't know exactly how it works, but I know that regular gasoline usually isn't used on premium vehicles, okay? So how come we do that? Why do we pull up to the grocery store or pull up to fast food and we grab whatever's cheap and whatever's fast, okay? It is sad that a lot of people pay more attention to what their car needs, like if a check engine light comes on, or if your car's really dirty. You take care of your car, but you don't take care of your body, which is insane because we only get one body. We should be taking care of it. All right. So, I mean, for real though, is anyone guilty of does anyone have a car that they love and they take great care of their car? And, sometimes, I mean, it's nuts. We don't always do that for ourselves. All right. So food is broken down into 3 components. That's how we get our calories. We get our calories, so our fuel, from 3 different components. We get them from carbohydrates, we get them from protein, and we get them from fats. Now, somewhere along the line, this has been made very confusing to us. How many carbs should I be eating? Should I limit fats? Are fats going to make me fat? Are fats going to make my cholesterol increase? How much protein should I get? I should eat a lot of protein so I don't need as many carbs. We are so confused. All right. So here we go. Let's start at the beginning, which is usually the topic. People love to hate on carbs. Who loves carbs? Anyone out there? Does anyone out there love carbs like I do? I love pasta. I love bread. I love cookies. And I don't want to live a life that can't have those things. All right, so let's break down carbs real fast. First and foremost, carbohydrates should be 50%, 50% of our daily calories every day. Now, I'm not telling you need to go eat a whole loaf of bread every day. I'm not telling you need to have a big bowl of noodles and rice, because carbohydrates come from lots of different things. Carbohydrates come from 5 main sources. The first one is breads, pastas, cereals, oatmeal, that type of thing. All right, that's obvious. We knew that. Those are carbs. Then we have our starchy vegetables. So there's a few vegetables that fall into this category that are actually considered starchy or a source of carbohydrates. And those are going to be potatoes, peas, corn, and legumes. So like beans, like black-eyed peas, black beans, kidney beans, that type of thing. Those all are going to have carbohydrates. All fruits have carbohydrates, whether it's a juice or whether it's a whole piece of fruit. Dairy has carbohydrates, so milk and yogurt are going to provide carbohydrates for you. And then last are sweets. We know all the good stuff, cookies, cake, ice cream, soda, it all has carbohydrates. All right. So, like I said, we need to be having half of our calories from carbohydrates. And that's because carbohydrates are our body's preferred source of energy. That's why a lot of times people are like, you need to eat breakfast. It's the most important meal of the day. That's because your body has been in a fasting state, and we need to break breakfast, to get the energy that our brain needs and our body needs to work correctly. Now, like each one of these categories of food that we're going to go over, there's good ones, and then there's ones that aren't as good for us, okay? So the complex carbohydrates, these ones right here, are good for us. They are a good source of carbohydrates. Now, they have a lot of fiber in them. I'm going to get to fiber in a minute. And I'm not talking about your grandma's fiber. I'm talking about, we're going to break down what fiber is in a second. But then we have simple carbohydrates, which are going to be things that digest very quickly in our body. All right, so my best example for you. A complex carbohydrate would be something like a whole orange, all right? This whole orange right here will provide roughly 80 calories and 15 grams of carbohydrates, okay? But when you eat the orange, you're gonna feel a little full when it comes to the orange. You're gonna feel something. Or you can eat orange juice, you can drink 4 ounces of orange juice, and it's gonna provide the exact same amount of carbohydrates and the exact same amount of calories. However, there's no fiber in it. There's nothing to keep us full. So that wouldn't be a good source of carbohydrates unless if we wanted to just bring our blood sugar up. All right, let me explain that a little bit deeper because it gets confusing. All right. Let me hop to this one, then I'll hop back. All right, so fiber, like I talked about it, it is a superpower when it comes to nutrition. I don't know why people don't talk about fiber all the time, like why we're so obsessed with not eating carbs or eating extra protein, but we're not talking about fiber. Fiber is and should be your best friend, all right? Less than half of Americans get enough fiber in a day, and I bet most of you, type into the chat, did you know how much fiber you should be eating in a day? Did anyone know? Most people don't. Okay, let me tell you why you want to eat fiber. And y'all think I'm crazy. I'm not talking about Metamucil that your grandma would put in her orange juice. I'm talking about fiber from fruits and vegetables and whole grains. All right, fiber does 4 awesome things for us. Number 1, if you want to lose weight, if you want to maintain your weight, because let me tell you, your metabolism decreases as we age, all right? There are a few things we can do to increase our metabolism. But if we eat foods that keep us full, we don't have to eat as many calories, okay? So these foods that digest very slowly, like those fruits and vegetables and beans and all of that, they digest slowly, and they're going to keep us full longer. So if we have, you know, a big old plate of Chinese food that doesn't have any fiber in it, we're going to be hungry an hour or 2 later. Does that ever happen with you guys in Chinese food? Are you like hungry? Like, you're like, how did I eat so much and I'm still hungry? It's because there's no fiber. Fiber also lowers your cholesterol level. So if you have high cholesterol, you have family history of high cholesterol, it helps lower our cholesterol levels. It prevents a lot of digestive cancers, and those are very serious, and those numbers are rising every year. It also keeps us regular, but it also helps your blood sugar. So, you know, like when you hear the expression a sugar high, like you think about a kid eating a bunch of candy, well, they drop and they lose their energy very quickly after having a lot of sugar. Well, if we have a diet that's high in fiber, we won't have that problem. Our blood sugar is going to stay pretty the same. It's not going to go up and down. All right, so let me explain fiber a little bit more. This is a whole grain. So now we're talking about white rice versus brown rice, or pasta, whole grain pasta versus white pasta. Now, this is a whole grain. This is great, all right? But companies learned if I take away the germ and I take away the bran and I just leave part of that whole grain, then our product can be a lot more shelf stable. It loses a lot of the protein. It loses a lot of the nutrition, the vitamins and minerals. So they got rid of these things and made refined products like white flour, things like that. Now, by using white flour, they can sell their products for double or triple the time because there's not protein in it to go bad. So we will lose 17 vitamins and minerals, protein, and all of that good nutrition. So we're only eating part of the whole grain, which contains, that whole grain contains a lot of fiber. All right, I could go on for that with that forever. Name of the game: carbohydrates aren't bad. There's good sources of carbohydrates, and we should be having them throughout the day. All right, number 2, we have protein. Protein is good for us, but somewhere along the line, people thought carbs are bad. Let me just eat a bunch of protein instead. Let me just eat a whole bunch of chicken breast and broccoli. It does not need to be that way. Let me explain to you. Protein can only be absorbed so much at one time, all right? Now, if you think about Popeye the Sailor Man, with his big muscles, if people who ate a bunch of protein all the time absorbed all that protein, we would be Popeye, okay? But that doesn't happen. Our body can only use so much protein at a time. That's why it's good to have small amounts of protein throughout the day. Protein should make up about 20% of our calories a day. I can almost guarantee that you're eating too much protein. We only need, like an adult, really only needs somewhere between 5 and 7 ounces of protein a day for normal body function. Anything we eat beyond that can be turned into fat, just like a carbohydrate, same thing. So eating a whole bunch of protein doesn't necessarily benefit us, okay? Protein also helps keep us full, and because it keeps us full. Okay, let me just leave it at that. But with protein, there's good protein, really healthy choices of protein, and then maybe some protein choices that are less healthy. All right, you guys type into the chat, what are your favorite types of proteins? And type in the chat, are you a vegetarian? Do you do non-meat proteins? Chicken, boiled eggs, Robert, I love boiled eggs. Turkey jerky, pork, seafood, awesome. These are some great options. All right, so we have low-fat protein, and then we have proteins that are going to be higher in saturated fats. So lean proteins are what we should be focusing on. Lean usually means less calories, but lean also is going to mean less fat. And when I say fat, I mean the bad fats. So the seafood is usually a good choice. Boiled eggs are a good choice. Eggs are good for us. We're going to talk about eggs in a little bit. Peanut butter, that's a great choice because of the fatty acids. Now, people give steak and red meat a bad name. It doesn't need to be that way. Usually steaks that are really marbly and expensive because they're good are higher in saturated fat, which is fine. It's just an occasional thing. But red meat can be part of a very healthy diet. And I think the indication is like once a week, usually for red meat, because it does provide a lot of iron. So choosing those lower, like low-fat dairy, chicken, turkey, meats without skin on them, pork tenderloin, that type of thing are going to be leaner choices. All right, so carbohydrates, 50% of calories, protein, 20% of calories, fats, 30% of calories. All right, so fats come from nuts, seeds. Anything usually processed has some sort of fat in it, all right? And there's good fats and then there's bad fats. I hate to put labels on things, but for this, we're just gonna do it. All right, so let's start with saturated fat, the one in the middle. Saturated fat, the best way for you to understand it is it's solid at room temperature. Butter, saturated. Lard, saturated. Coconut oil, saturated. Saturated fats are the fats that directly affect our bad cholesterol levels. Those things that put us at high risk for stroke, heart disease, heart attacks. Those are the ones we want to limit, okay? Yes, I said coconut oil. I know people love their coconut oil. I know. It has been made to, yes, Gabriella, it's true. So coconut oil, although it does have some health benefits, it has some anti-inflammatory properties, it has vitamins and minerals. If you can use another unsaturated fat instead, that would be better. So if you think liquid at room temperature, those are the things that are going to run through our veins a little bit easier, and they're going to help, they're going to raise our good cholesterol levels. So those unsaturated fats, avocado oil, olive oil, palm oil, those are what we need to be focusing on. Okay. Now, coconut fat or coconut oil can be used sometimes. It's just a lot of, it was made to be put out there as like, oh, this is like a super, super healthy thing. It does have benefits, but I would not use it all the time. All right. Now, trans fats are the worst of the worst. They are man-made. So they don't come from a plant. They don't come from an animal. And they were actually, because they're so bad for us, they were banned in the United States and actually all over the world in several different countries a couple of years ago. However, there was a loophole. Some companies found that they can have small amounts of trans fats in their foods. For instance, something we probably all know and love, Cool Whip. Cool Whip is, y'all, I know it's easy. I know it's delicious. I know it's pretty low calorie, but it is going to directly affect your bad cholesterol level. So if you look at this, I should have added a picture to this one. If you look at a Cool Whip label, it will say trans fats 0. It's like right here. Trans fats 0. Okay. Now, companies learned we can put small amounts of trans fats into things legally, 0.5 grams, and say that it's trans fat free. However, who only eats 1 tablespoon of Cool Whip? Nobody, okay? Because it's good. So you could be out there eating like 4 grams of trans fats and not even know it. And those are the ones that trans fats lead to things like cancer. They lead to things like mood disorders, depression, anger, headaches, and it's because it directly affects our body in a negative way. All right, so then we have these good fats. These are omega fatty acids. These are called essential because our body does not make them. So if we don't eat them, we won't have them. They prevent a lot of illnesses. That's why if you are a woman and you've had a baby before, your doctor probably told you to take a prenatal. Prenatals taste like fish. They're gross. That's because of these things. All right, so omega-3s, they reduce the fat in your liver. They're good for heart health. They're good for brain development, and they're found in fatty fish, chia seeds, walnuts, flax seeds, all sorts of good things. And they decrease inflammation, meaning decrease your chance of getting serious illnesses, such as cancer, COPD, diabetes. Omega-6 fatty acids are also very good, except we probably get too many. And that's because they're found in soybean oil and corn oil, which things are fried in and added. So we get a lot of them. We probably get too many, but they're good for bone health. They decrease nerve pain. They can help inflammation. And omega-9 fatty acids come from nuts, seeds, and olive oils. And those are good to prevent diabetes, to help with our blood sugar levels, and they decrease our risk for heart disease. I have to always read because I know that I'm going to mess up which one goes where. All right, so nutrition facts label. Type into the chat. What is the first thing you look at when you look at a nutrition facts panel? What is the first thing? All right, usually calories, sugar, saturated fat, carbs. All right, so the first thing we should always look at is the servings per container. A lot of times similar foods will have different servings per container. So like maybe Wheat Thins and like the store brand of Wheat Thins, things like that. We always need to start there to know if it's worth it to us, you know? All right, my next tip, don't focus on the percentage. The percentage is based on a 2,000 calorie diet. Most people don't need 2,000 calories. I need more than 2,000 calories. A lot of people need more, some people need less. My next little thing is Saturated fat, so those bad fats, the coconut oil, the things like bacon and ground meats and butter, we want less than 10% of our calories to come from that a day. And it is very important because, again, this is what's going to decrease our chance for heart disease and heart attack and stroke. Sodium. I'm going to talk about sodium in a minute, but 2,300 milligrams a day, that sounds like a big number. It's not. It is not a big number at all. If you have one frozen entree like Stouffer's, you've already exceeded it. If you have one meal at McDonald's, you've exceeded it. If you like Chinese food, you're going to exceed it because it's in that soy sauce. But I'm saying that because our heart, again, our heart has to work extra hard if our blood pressure is high. And if our blood pressure is high, our heart's working extra hard. And if you have something that works extra hard all the time for years and years, it's not going to last as long. Same thing like that car. If you keep putting cheap gas in it, it's not going to last as long as it would have if you had followed the directions. All right, and then we want less than 10% of our daily calories to come from added sugars. Now, I have a whole presentation on this because this is when things start to get crazy. But companies, like I said with that Cool Whip, they're sneaky. They're very, very sneaky, okay? Now, there's some things that don't mean anything. There's some things that mean things you probably don't know. So number one, USDA organic. That's the gold standard, okay? Every food you buy does not need to be organic. That's for another time too. But that USDA sign is organic. All right, certified organic. So you think you're doing a good thing. It's only up to 95% of organic ingredients. So it's not even 100% organic. Just leaving that out there. 100% organic is another way. USDA, it's 100% organic. That's good. All right. Made with organic ingredients. It's only 70% organic. Don't waste your money. Just buy the regular product that's $2 less. It's not worth, it's like so much of it's already not, don't waste your money. Okay. It is a gimmick, like 70% organic. You're just paying extra for that label. Gluten-free is one of those that truly is gluten-free. So that's a good one to look for. The sign that says natural, that means absolutely nothing. There's no regulations. Don't spend extra. You're going to spend 50 extra cents on your natural peanut butter. That literally means nothing because there's no one checking that. Okay. So be careful with that word natural. In your produce section, you might see things that say local, like local corn or beef or whatever. There's no regulation for that either. I live in Texas. It could say local and those avocados could be from Mexico. Now I know I'm close to Mexico, but that's not local to me. Okay. There is no guideline. Don't spend extra money on it. All right. Another one, brown eggs. Why are they $2 more? They're not healthier. The color of an egg comes from the type of hen that produces that egg. It has nothing to do with the nutrition. All right. There's just a lot more hens that produce white eggs. That's why those are cheaper than brown eggs. So it's not a nutrition thing. Now, free range. It's one of those hot topics. Free range, or first of all, you'll see cage free. Don't spend more for cage free. Almost all chickens are cage free nowadays. All right. That just means they're not in an actual cage. They're still really in close quarters. It's not good. Anyways, free range is another one of those, it's tricky wording. Free range means that chickens for a certain amount of time per day have access to the outside. This does not mean these chickens are all happy running around in fields. That is not what's happening here. So again, a lot of marketing terms are used that some companies are being honest, and that is awesome. That is wonderful, but there are some that aren't, okay? For eggs, if you can, they are a little bit more expensive. Eggland's Best. The nutrition from an egg comes from the feed, so what they feed the hens, and the environment they're raised in. And so for me, gold standard would be Eggland's Best. All right, bread. Because bread is brown, does not mean it's good. Bread can be, so in a nutrition label, ingredients are listed. Okay, yeah, pasteurized. I'll get to that in a second, Stephanie. So bread ingredients are listed in weight and how much they weigh. Okay. So the first ingredient is always the most that's in that food. Now, a bread can say wheat bread, but have white flour as the first ingredient. You can label bread if it has wheat in it. Okay. So it could be a lot of white flour and a little bit of wheat flour, but it's still called wheat bread. So when buying bread, if you are trying to choose a whole grain or wheat, make sure it says 100% wheat, 100% whole grain. All right, there's no cheat sheet, unfortunately, but I could maybe work up something to get to you guys next week. I'll drop it in the chat to make things a little bit easier. Okay, so pasteurized eggs. Pasteurized means the heat that they go through. Now, I don't have a scientific background on this. I'm just telling you from my little bit of knowledge. So this might need further research. Now, pasteurized just means the amount of heat they're put into. So like you would not want to eat raw cookie dough on an unpasteurized egg because they are at a greater chance of having certain foodborne illnesses. So it doesn't really pasteurize. I do pasteurize because I don't know if I were to undercook something, I don't want my kids getting sick. All right, now fruits and vegetables. How are we on time? This happens to me every dang time. I get so into this and heated, I talk too much. All right, now, like I said, I'm a dietitian. And so I teach adults about nutrition. I teach kids about nutrition. I teach teenagers, but I tell everyone, every age group, eat the rainbow. Now, who here, type into the chat, who here truly eats all the different colors? And I'm not talking about Skittles. I am talking about fruits and vegetables. So who eats all different? Perfect. I'm getting, yes. So it's funny, you guys can't see. Tina direct messaged me that she said that she does. And then Razida, I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, said Tina. So that was funny because she didn't even know that she had put into the chat that she does. All right. So I am so happy that you guys do eat the rainbow. But how often are you doing it? Is it an every day? Does it take 3 days to do it? So it is always interesting to really see. Okay. So let me get to why. So if you only eat certain colored foods, you will see that you will be deficient in things. All right. So if you literally never ate yellow foods, you're probably not getting enough vitamin A. You're probably, if you didn't eat them as a kid, maybe your vision isn't as good, but different colors provide different nutrition. All right. So vitamin A, which is usually in that yellow, orangey, red, it is huge for our immune support. Huge, huge, huge. All right. That's why just like vitamin C, a lot of those colored foods are important for immune. D says, and I see you're at the bottom of my screen, D, I can see you. Says we make a list of different plants we eat in a week. We try to get 30 minimum. Whoa, usually get 40. That is amazing. That it truly is amazing. All right, so yellow doesn't just mean bananas. It means yellow squash, tomatoes, corn, bell peppers. That is so important. All right. Fun fact about bell peppers. Bell peppers are great for immune function because they're about 200% the vitamin C that an orange has. Okay. Now, did you guys know that a green bell pepper is the exact same thing as a red bell pepper? A green bell pepper is just picked first. So green bell peppers are cheap because they can grow them and pick them before they're actually ripe. That's why they're not as nutrient dense as something like a red or a yellow bell pepper. It goes from green to yellow to orange to red. So if you can get an orange or a red bell pepper, they will have a lot more vitamins and minerals in them. They're also sweeter in that spectrum as well. Okay, how about chili? What is the vitamin C percentage? Abraham, I have no idea. I really don't. I have no idea. I'm assuming anything bright red is usually bright colors are usually a good source of vitamin C. Now, let me talk for a minute about vitamin C. It is approaching cold and flu season. If you are lucky like me, Knock on wood, my kids are in school right now. I hope it stays that way. That's just because it's been a long summer. I'm not a bad mom. It's just a lot of kids. Okay. So you might be tempted to purchase something like Emergen-C or whatever, you know what I'm talking about, those supplements. Let me tell you something. Vitamin C is called a water soluble vitamin, meaning you can only absorb so much. It doesn't go in, extra doesn't go anywhere. It's a great example would be like if you've ever taken a multivitamin or you've ever drank an energy drink and you pee and you notice after you pee, your pee is like bright yellow or orange or red. That's not red. It should never be red. But if it's bright in colors, that's you excreting those vitamins that you cannot use. So taking something like Emergen-C that has 2000% of your vitamin C does nothing for you. Same thing like the protein. You're not going to like have this vitamin C storage in your body somewhere that is like, oh, I think I'm sick. Let me go to my vitamin C storage. There is no extra. That's why you have to eat, like Dee does, a variety throughout the week. So when your body needs it, it's there. There's no backup. So don't waste your money on that. You can't keep it unless if you were like seriously nutrient deficient vitamin C, I don't see a benefit of doing that. All right. So purple, it's good for brain health. It helps with inflammation. I keep saying inflammation. Inflammation leads to things like cancer, leads to very serious illnesses. It's our body's immune response. Green is needed for bone and teeth health. It's good for cancer prevention. All of these aid in cancer prevention because anything that's brightly colored has a lot of antioxidants. Antioxidants are these magical things that we eat that get rid of the bad things. Okay. All right. So now I get asked this question, or here's this. I'll be on Instagram, like a lot of you probably are, and you'll see this like healthy recipe for granola bars or something, and then you look and there's no sugar in it. And so this is where people say it's healthy because there's no sugar in it, it's only honey. From a calorie standpoint, it's the same amount of calories. It doesn't matter if you have a half cup of sugar or a half cup of honey, it's still calorically the same. Now, if you're not worried about calories, that's great. But I'm just saying, be wary when something says healthy. What does that mean? Honey, like I said, just like sugar, same amount of calories, is a natural form of a sweetener. And another fun thing about honey, if you have allergies, seasonal allergies, if you eat local honey, like from the farmer's market, it will actually decrease the symptoms of your allergies because those are the bees that are pollinating your local plants. So if you can get local honey, it's a little bit extra, but it's worth it. All right. So, or that there was like a trend going around on TikTok, I'm in my 30s, but I'm still trying to hang in there. I'm like, I'm not old yet. I'm still cool. So there was a trend where people were eating honey and I don't understand. I'd rather just eat a piece of chocolate. It's anyways. All right. So the problem is we don't need as much sugar as we're eating. I'll get to that in a second. Artificial sweeteners. Yes, they're not ideal, but it depends. Maybe you really have a sweet tooth or you really you're addicted to Coca-Cola and like Diet Coke is like gives you what you need. It just depends on what your goals are. Okay. According to the CDC and the FDA, it is fine in moderation. However, moderation is not defined. If artificial sweeteners, try not to do it more than once a day or more than a couple times per week if you can. Now, here's the thing. If you're diabetic, sometimes maybe that's what you need to do. That's why I hate to say don't ever do that because it is a solution for some people. Now, is it going to be the healthiest thing ever? No, but eating no sweets would be the healthiest thing ever. And no one wants to live that kind of life. All right. All right. What about stevia? Stevia comes from a plant. It is stevia. It still has calories. I had to think, no, it doesn't have calories. I'm thinking of agave syrup. Stevia is fine. It is a natural form. It is fine. You use less. It's stronger. It's sweeter. That is okay. Monk fruit, low calorie. I mean, there's so many sweeteners. They go through my head. Could you show the food color chart again? Yes. Okay, there's that. You'll also get a copy of this presentation. All right, did somebody ask me about sparkling water? Is it a good alternative? Yes, I drink it. You'll see I'm drinking a LaCroix right now. I'm not partial to LaCroix. It just happens to be the brand my husband manufactures. So I'm trying to support his business. All right, so here's the thing. There's sugar in everything. I think I'm gonna go over how much sugar in everything. I am, okay. There's added sugar to things. That's the problem. Carbohydrates, not bad, okay? Depending. The problem, so like if you eat yogurt, there's going to be sugar in yogurt. It's going to say carbs or sugars or whatever. There's some that are natural and you can't get around that. If you're having dairy, they're going to be there. So that's fine. Hi, baby. Oh, I'm sorry you're sad. So sweet. All right. Okay, so men no more than 36 grams of added sugar, women no more than 25 grams. All right, 25 grams. You're like, yes, that's a lot. This is awesome. First of all, you don't need added sugar. It's not going to benefit your health. We don't want you having more than this, okay? More than this leads to weight gain, which can lead to obesity, which can lead to diabetes, heart disease, that's why we're trying to prevent. All right. So there's hidden sugars and things. All right. So let's say I have changed your life and you're like, man, that Caitlin, that dietitian, she's got me ready to make some changes. You go to the grocery store tonight and you're like, I'm going to get some yogurt for tomorrow morning and I'm going to start my day nice and healthy. Here's the problem. Chobani yogurt, blueberry yogurt. I saw a couple different places online, so I need to go to the grocery store and like actually check. But I read somewhere that it has 18 grams of added sugar in a single serving. Added sugar in a blueberry Chobani. And here's the thing, Chobani is not even the cheap brand. You're like paying more, thinking you're really doing yourself a service. What about granola bars or breakfast bars? A Cliff Bar, a chocolate chip Cliff Bar. Again, one of the more expensive breakfast bars. 20 grams of added sugar in a Cliff Bar. Be careful. Things like fruit, yogurt parfaits, smoothies, like you think you're being so healthy with a smoothie. Just depends on who makes it and all that stuff. Pasta sauce can have up to 10 grams of added sugar in one serving. It's like you're not even eating sweets. So why waste your added sugar there? Peanut butter. Peanut butters should only have peanuts and salt. No, you don't need sweetener in your peanut butter. That's what the jelly's for. It's already sweet. So applesauce can have added cereals. Oh goodness, let me tell you something. Raisin Bran is horrific with the amount of carbohydrates, especially related to sugar. It's like you think no one's eating Raisin Bran for fun, you know? So really look, okay? You need to read. You want to try your yogurts. I mean, we shouldn't have more than 4 grams of added sugar, things like that. We need to be careful. All right. Now, salt. Like I said, salt is hard on our heart. Who loves salt? Okay. Is apple cider. I love all your questions. Sometimes I do these things and it's crickets. And I'm like, is anyone listening? All right. Apple cider vinegar. Mixed reviews. Is it some magical potion? Depends on who you ask. Is it some magical potion? No. Because if it was, everyone would be drinking apple cider vinegar. All right. Abraham, you don't have to give it up. Just moderation, not every day. You know, I love a margarita. I love a slice of pizza. I'm not having that all day, every day. Apple cider vinegar. Yes and no. Do I drink it? No. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know. I don't usually recommend it. For some people, it might be, there is research behind it. I don't know how to answer that. All right. So, anyone loves salty things? All right. So, yes, it can help with digestive issues. So there's another, so what I teach practical nutrition. Okay. So what I consider myself is I teach real life nutrition for like the everyday person. Now, there's a world of nutrition called functional nutrition that focuses on the gut. And the gut is very important for health. The gut is important for weight. It's important for our immune system. It's important for tons of things. I don't focus on the gut. Someone that focuses on the gut is going to recommend apple cider vinegar and things of that nature. I can't speak to it and recommend it because that's not my field of study. I don't know your digestive or any your health issues. So there's that. But yes, it can be good. All right, so salt. Now you're thinking, all right, I don't salt my food. I'm good. Our problem isn't the salt that we're putting on food, the salt that's in food. All right, if you walk down the middle of the grocery store and something's in a package, 9 times out of 10, it's going to have salt in it. Salt isn't something to make it taste good necessarily. It's needed for preservatives. It's needed for an acid-base balance. It's needed for shelf stability. All right, so literally my husband manufactures things for a living, mostly drinks, but other things too. And so like I learned a lot. It has a lot to do with food safety. And if something isn't a certain acidity, it can't kill bacteria. All right, canned food, a great offender. Buy low sodium canned foods, okay? Do not buy regular canned foods and just rinse it. That doesn't help. Those foods are wet and they're going to absorb moisture. And so that salt is already in there, all right? So if you like soy sauce, astronomically high, make sure you're looking for a low sodium soy sauce. Things like condiments, we need to be careful. Individual, this is my rule of thumb, individual food items. So if it is a side item that you're having or an ingredient, you don't ever want that to be over 140 milligrams of sodium if you can prevent that. Now, if it's a whole meal, like let's say you're getting a lean cuisine, try and stay under 500 milligrams of sodium. A lot of salt, again, it affects our hydration status. It makes our heart work harder, and it's very bad for us over time, okay? Especially if you have high blood pressure. All right, so let's get to talking about water. I gotta talk a little fast. All right, so water. Question for you. Who drinks enough water? Water, type into the chat. Do you feel like you're drinking enough water? Water is needed for so many parts. If we want to be fully healthy, we need to drink water. There's a whole list of things right here that water does, okay? Now, when you go to a hospital, you'll see everyone's hooked up to an IV, all right? That's because most people are dehydrated. I saw someone just sipping their water. Good job. All right. So, you'll see everyone's hooked up to an IV. Your body cannot function appropriately as well as it needs to if it is not properly hydrated, okay? Now, there is such thing as overhydration. Most of the time, that's not the situation, but you can overhydrate. So here's my question. Sparkling water does count, yes. Here's my question. You don't have to type the amount. I don't need to know. Just type yes or no. Do you know how much water you should consume in a day? Yes or no? There's a general rule of thumb that is half of your weight in ounces. So if I weigh 120 pounds, which I don't, that was a long time ago, 120 pounds, I would need 50 ounces of water. Now, life's never that simple. Maybe you have kidney issues. Maybe you have heart issues that decrease your water needs. Maybe you live at an elevated climate. Maybe you're vacationing in Colorado and you're hiking. You need more water. If you're outside for more than an hour, if you're sweating, you need more water. If you have diarrhea, if you are vomiting, you need more water. There's a lot of things that make us need water. I'm going to get to sports drinks in a second because I always get asked about that too. All right, so half of our weight in ounces from fluid. It doesn't mean just water. Sparkling water counts. Technically, a Coca-Cola would count as that. Now, is that going to be a healthy choice to drink? You already know the answer to that, okay? So it's never that simple. Now, there are people that don't like drinking water, which is fine. What about coffee? I'll get there in a second too. All right. You can actually get water from your food. Now, for me, what my goal is every day is to drink half of my weight in ounces, and then my extra comes from food. Now, here's something cool. All of these foods are 90% or more water. All right. So these are great. And that's why we tell you, if you're hungry and you want to lose weight, or if you're like a volume eater, eat a lot of these types of foods because they're very low in calories. They're a lot of water. All right. But other foods that contribute to our fluid status would be ice cream. Now, don't take this as Caitlin told me to eat more ice cream so that I'm hydrated. That's not what I just said. There are soup counts as fluid. Popsicles count as fluid. Anything that is liquid at room temperature will count as fluid. So usually you can meet your needs if you really hate drinking. I mean, you can eat a lot of watery foods, I suppose, but I just like to share, you don't only have to get it through water. All right, so we want to prevent dehydration, all right? Dehydration is not good for anyone. It makes us feel like garbage, but these are some of the side effects. Dry mouth is usually my indication that I'm dehydrated. If you have a dry mouth, if you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. So your goal should be to prevent having a dry mouth, prevent being thirsty, okay? Now, maybe you have a child or an elderly parent, and like, you know when you're dehydrated, but how do you know when they're dehydrated? You know, if you have a 3-year-old and you're like, are you thirsty? It's hard to explain to or maybe a 2-year-old that like can barely talk. It's hard to explain to a teeny tiny person what dehydration feels like. Or if you have an elderly person that doesn't talk much, a great rule of thumb is look at the color of their urine. I have 2 boys. They don't know how to flush the toilet. So I am very lucky. I don't ever have to guess. All right. Any boy moms out there that know what I'm talking about? All right. So here is my rule of thumb. If your urine is clear, you're overhydrated. Okay. Again, not very common, but you can drink too much fluid. When you look at your labs, you go to your doctor, you look at your labs, the first value is always sodium, Na. Okay. That gives us medical professionals an idea of what your hydration status is. Okay. So if your sodium is super low, which a lot of water in your blood, that means you're overhydrated. Again, it doesn't happen very often, but clear urine isn't necessarily a good thing. Light lemonade is what we all should be going for. Okay. Anything darker than that is a degree of dehydration. All right. So look for that. Don't worry if you have taken a multivitamin. Again, like I said, that first P after that is usually bright colored. It's those vitamins we can't use right away. All right. So sports drinks, more than an hour of vigorous activity. Okay. A 5-year-old at a soccer game does not need a sports drink afterwards. Okay. That was if the game was 20 minutes long. You know what I mean? Hour of vigorous activities. High school students should not be hydrating for fun with Gatorade. Let me tell you why. A 20-ounce Gatorade has 36 grams of added sugar. That is more sugar than in a candy bar, okay? Gatorade is used to replace our electrolytes, okay? Sodium, potassium, all that jazz. We can replace them through food. We can replace them normally, but for whatever reason, we like these beverages, okay? I would use Propel before I would use Gatorade. That's just me. But it does have its place. Just, you have to really be needing it, okay? Now, another question. All right, I'm almost done. I'm almost done. All right, another question was about coffee. Coffee, alcohol, all that jazz are diuretics, which means they make us pee. So, and here's the thing, you can build up kind of a tolerance to how much you have to pee. So if you drink coffee often, it might not make you have to pee as much. But for every coffee you have or every alcohol you have, try and get extra water. So like a cup of extra water with that, okay? If you had a hard night out, I'm not here to judge. I've been there. You know, if you were out the night before and you're feeling like garbage, it's actually has a lot to do with your hydration status. So in the evening, if you've had like a little bit extra, drink some extra water. It will help you not feel so bad. All right, Pedialyte is something you can use. Stephanie asked about Pedialyte. You can use that, especially if yourself or your child or your husband, whoever, has had diarrhea and vomiting. Pedialyte is a great way to replace those electrolytes that you've lost. So Pedialyte actually makes powder Pedialyte. I don't keep Gatorade in my house because, you know, I don't really recommend most people drinking it. But I keep the powder Pedialyte, so I have it on hand. But Pedialyte is fine. It's some, you know, in cases where you need your kids to drink more fluid, but it shouldn't be like their main source of fluid. All right, so water's boring. Let's be real. It can be boring day in and day out. Flavor it. Use this as an example of how to get a little bit of nutrition, a little extra nutrition. All right, these are some great choices. I do sparkling water and then I'll like mush up some strawberries and it's like I feel like I'm having a mojito and I'll just close my eyes and pretend I'm at like a really nice restaurant while my kids are screaming in the background. It's just one of those moments, you know, but anything you have, or if you have frozen fruit, add frozen fruit as your ice to your drinks. All right, last but not least, I want you guys to ask all your questions because I will stay till I have all of your questions. But I say Be More Health Coaching. I recently took over their social media. So if you're on Instagram or LinkedIn, we share workouts, we do giveaways, I'm sharing recipes, we do all sorts of things. So give us a follow on social media and it will just like continue to teach you. And we like when you follow us because we want to know what our consumers want to learn about. So thank you for listening to me talk for an hour. I think I'm funny. I hope that you guys think I'm funny. And type into the chat. Do you guys have any questions? I'll work on like a mini cheat sheet from today for next week. Next week, we will be talking about mindful eating, which is interesting. Dee, I'm glad you enjoyed it. You're welcome, Sophie. Thank you for thinking I'm funny, Kendall. Extra credit points, which mean nothing, but thank you. Awesome. All right. Well, also, if you think of a question this week, next week, you can ask me when we meet again.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your insight and information, Caitlin.
You're welcome.
And we'll go ahead and also send out the invite for the following week, right, Tanya?
Yeah, Caitlin, you're gonna send me the updated one, correct?
I just did right before this, so it should be coming your way. And then, yeah, mindful eating. I'll work on a cheat sheet that I'll get to you. If I don't get it to you before the presentation, I'll drop it in the chat here so that they can have it.
Thank you so much. This
You're
was very
Thank you. And we encourage everyone also to invite your colleagues that weren't able to make it. We will have the recording available and we'll put that on inside.govsci.com. So we'll send an email follow-up for that, but we encourage you to attend for the upcoming one, as well as encourage others in your team, your friends within the company to also join as well.
Yeah. Awesome. All righty. Well, you guys have a great rest of your week and I will see you next time. It will be an hour later next week.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.